What's up, everybody? Hoang Zero here, and today we have for you the comprehensive adventure guide, I guess you could say. Not necessarily a deck profile, because we're kind of going to go over every single adventure card. And in this video, we have two different builds of adventure. So there's a lot to cover, but I figured because there is so many adventure cards, as well as all of the overall the quality of the cards being fairly high, it would be very good just for us to talk about the cards, what they can do, should you run them, etc. Since these are coming out on the starter decks, there's going to be a lot of new players, and so we want to make sure that everyone has all the information they need. Joining me today, we have the one and only Zero.
Hey.
Yep. Zero and I, we've been playing a lot of adventure in the last couple of months, so very, very excited to be talking about it. But we've taken two very different directions with the adventure deck. So this, Kohei, unironically, did a very good job in designing the starter decks, both the Melka and the Warg, because they do, in fact, play very distinctively. So really excited to talk about that today. Zero, what are your thoughts on adventure right before we jump right into this?
Mm, it's probably the most pushed starter deck we've ever gotten. These, keep in mind, these are not advanced decks, so I wouldn't put them on the same level as the Beelzemon or the Rapidmon deck, right? But as far as starter deck product, this is like the most push starter deck product we've gotten, and it's probably very close. I hesitate to call it tier one, but this is very close to being a tier one deck.
Yeah.
Until we see the rest of the meta. But just for basically buying like two starter deck, and like, yeah, you have to get the tie and the secret, and it's kind of annoying. But for how little investment it is to put in, is like a very very competent deck.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the deck on release is probably like very high tier two, maybe low tier one. And we can talk about kind of the weaknesses and all of that later on into the video. But Adventure is a deck that's easy to pick up, so great as a starter deck, but it's very difficult to master just because there's so many lines present to you at any given time. And I am very excited to see what players end up cooking up with this. But all that being said, we can jump straight into the different cards we have. So we're going to cover all of the cards in Adventure since there's so many. Starting us off, actually how we can do this is if the card is from the Warg starter deck, I'll cover it. And if the card is from the Melga starter deck, we'll have Zero cover it. Does that work for you?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So starting us off, we do have the Coromon. All turns, if the card has Adventure, it gets plus 1000 DP. This is good in the context of the WarGreymon starter deck because you want to establish this immune blocker that can basically block out anything in the game. So having a consistent plus 1000 DP means that you're always going to be 13,000 DP to block out your opponent's likely 12,000. But in my opinion, what the better egg overall in Adventure is the Suno egg, if you want to take it away.
Yeah. Egg is just fantastic. Unleash and grab anything back. Typically the way you use this is you just basically move out rookie swing, grab the rookie back, just have recursion on the egg. But sometimes this is really good for mid game because it just allows you to like swing a stack, have it dice, and then grab back when you fires or anything really from trash.
Yeah,
You know, just very it's a very useful toolbox card for a toolbox deck.
yeah, when you run so many like low count, like one of, two ofs, etc., being able to grab any of it back just feels like so much value that, and there's the only thing that replicates this in the deck is like a level 4 slot, but that's nowhere near as consistent as this. So I feel like this is almost mandatory your egg, right?
Plus, look at the art.
The art
Look how
is
good
good.
the art is.
I mean, the art is good. The other one is also good, but Sunomon being
But that
stuck
the
in the
other one
ground,
is just
yeah,
so
yeah,
plain. But this one's
yeah.
Cinnamon is stuck in the
Yeah,
ground. It's
yeah.
so good.
I agree. I agree. Okay. Next, we do have Agumon. So both Agumon and Gabumon do practically the same thing as far as the main effect goes, being, warp into Warg, warp into Melga. But the inherits are different. Agumon inherit being Reboot. So the Agumon is good for the WarGreymon deck because the reboot allows you to swing out using your alliance, and then you can reboot back into your big blockers so you can start defending against your opponent. So you're trying to have both the offense and the defensive components. The warp is a pretty easy condition to fulfill. Either your opponent is giving it to you by having a level 6 or higher, or you're having your tamers with 3 or more colors.
10,000.
Oh, yeah, 10,000. Well, I said that's why I said level 6, right?
No, that's some level 5 to hit 10,000.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, And so this card marks kind of the start of the trend of adventure, being that the cards work on having multiple colors in your tamers. So a lot of the cards are for every 2 colors you have in your tamers, or for every if you have 3 or more, right? So that's why you see in the bottom right corner, you see all these tamers with a wide variety of colors. So keep in mind, when deck building, you want to have a wide array of colors amongst your tamers in order to benefit from the effects. Being able to warp into WarGreymon for 4 cost is really fantastic because this is a great consistency buff. That means you don't have to climb through the 4 and 5. You can just go straight into the WarGreymon. And then, since we covered Agumon, we can just jump straight into Gabumon, right?
Yeah. Do you want to just go ahead and talk about the War and Metal too, since they're related?
Yeah, sure. So if you want to talk about Gabu, and then we'll go into the sixes.
Actually, go. Why don't you start on the War Greymon first, because
Sure.
it's related to the card.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So WarGreymon, here, we'll cut straight to the chase. This is the boss card for one of the adventure decks. On play, when digivolving until the end of your opponent's turn, for every 2 colors your tamers have, one their Digimon effects don't affect one of your Digimon. My bad, I had a word jumble there. So basically, what that is implying is that for every 2 colors of your tamers that you have, you can select a Digimon on your board, and it becomes immune to Digimon effects. So you have black, green, blue, purple, yellow, red, and white. So total maximum you can have is 6 colors. With if you it's crazy if you have 6 colors, you can select up to 3 Digimon to then become immune. And then following that, when digivolving, when attacking, delete one of your opponent's lowest DP Digimon. So this is not only a card that grants you immunity and also can remove a body. It removes a body consistently every turn. You can also hard play this in order to gain that immunity. So using the Agumon, warp into the WarGreymon, you can then give your board immunity. You can pop something. If you have an Alliance 5, you can then swing out with the WarGreymon, pop something again. Very versatile card, and definitely something that's very, very fun to play around with, I would say. All right. And then the Gabu side of things, if you will.
Yep. Gabu does the same thing as Agumon does, except the inherit is you get to draw and discard. And this is actually really strong. Can you go to the metal?
Yep, of
And then we
course.
can discuss why that effect is good. So, Melga is on play on Digivolve, bot deck, one of your opponent Digimon that's level 4 or lower. For every 2 color you have, you can add a level to the color. So, ideally, what you want is to get 4 color, and this will bot deck a level 6. Pretty good defensive effect generally, and good for removal. Bot decking stuff is still just really strong in general. Now the second effect is when attacking once per turn, you play level 4 from trash. So we're gonna get back to this effect, but the reason the inherit for Gabumon is really good for this card is because you can now set up your trash with the Gabumon by drawing and trashing, and then using this effect to play back what you just trash. So they work really well together, just allowing you to just keep comboing further. And this deck is a lot more aggressive than the WarGreymon, obviously. And the whole point of this deck is just to go face and win the game, right? So this just give you more bodies on board for you to start punching.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you'll notice a lot of cards in the 2 different starter decks kind of like are counterparts to one another. So whenever we can like run across one of those, we can just cover both, right? I feel like it's easy.
Yeah,
Um, so the Goma, I think this is actually part of the Gabu starter. If you want to go ahead,
yeah. I mean,
I mean,
King, it's just your
it's
average memory blocker. Yeah, you you fit this in the deck if you feel like the meta needs memory blocker.
mhm.
It exists for that reason. It also has a second floodgate in the WarGreymon deck, which is
Yeah.
uh the Tentomon.
Yeah, which this is essentially your Cutemon, your Siakomons, right? So if you ever feel like that's important in the meta, you can easily slot in Tentomon, right? Which
Yep.
also, sidebar, it is still an Insectoid, so this is actually just a good card in green in general, because I don't think green has had this Floodgate before. So it's just good to
Yeah.
have, right?
Yeah, you have a memory blocker Goma in CBs. You can play that in CBs deck.
Yeah. All right.
I don't think it's I don't think it fit within the sea animal archetype though, so you
Mhm.
can't really play it in like the aqua deck.
Yeah. There you go. And then this is another Melga card, if you will.
Yeah, this is you trash one draw two. Pretty standard effect, pretty good inherit. Just 1K. I'm actually kind of confused what this one is in the Melga deck because I feel like the Melga deck actually won the DP during your turn and not the alt turn. This feels more like it should be a worker, but
I think
it's fine.
I think it's more specifically because back in 0-1, it was more Tai Sora rather than Matt Sora, which was 0-2. But that's semantics, like that's whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, so Biomon on the other hand is on play, reveal top three, add one Digimon with adventure, and then also one Tamer or option, so both. So and then return the rest of the bottom. So this is a card that will often hit multiple cards. It's a really fantastic card. And your turn, this Digimon gets plus 2,000 DP. So
Yeah.
before we jump right into this, I do want to talk about a trait that a lot of the tamers do share. Four of the five adventure tamers all share this trait, being when any of your Digimon with the adventure trait would be played from hand, suspend this tamer, reduce the play cost by one. Why this is significant is because all the four tamers that aren't the secret rare all have this characteristic, which means you can play cards like the Palmon, like the Biomon for reduced cost to further cycle through your deck, right?
Yeah, you often play this for one, and then you can evolve and choke on the turn pass.
Yeah. All right, and then going into our four lineups, we do have the BT21 Greymon. If you have Tai or an adventure or a tamer with adventure, you can taunt one of your opponent's Digimon, reboot, inherit, and also don't worry, it has a black text box for the adventure trait. So this card is really good for the Warg setup because obviously you can taunt your opponent, and then when they swing in, you can then ace into Warg, pop their body, give your board immunity, block out another swing. So effectively, you can remove two threats on the board, kind of like Examon, really.
Yeah,
And,
this card is good for like any Greymon deck too. Just give
mhm.
them access to taunt now.
Yeah, really good for generic Greymon. The reboot, like we mentioned with the Agumon, still very fantastic for the adventure deck because you can swing out with the Alliance to check them and then reboot into a defensive play. And then we can just cover the counterpart to that.
Yeah, this card is really interesting. It has a security effect, so you get to play it for free, and then it's on play on Digivolve. You just get to grab anything back from trash. Very, very cool card. Very flexible. The inherit is draw one, trash one. Although I don't think this is a card that you play high enough count of for either of it to really matter. It's just really flexible. If it's like, hey, if you don't have another level 4 slot, you can run this to occasionally mid game grab and then point piece back from trash.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then we do have yeah, Ikakumon. This is the Melga starter, I believe.
Yeah. So yeah, this card again it's another security effect. Wonder why Matt got double security effect. But this one is on play on Digivolve trash top two. Digivolution card you when you opponent Digimon, and then it just can't attack or block. The inherit is you have seven or less card, you draw a card. Um, this is actually one of the, in my opinion, one of the lesser level four. I don't really see a lot scenario where you would run this over the other level four. It just the stun is neat and the strip is neat, but it's not something the deck needs. You don't do enough of source stripping for this to matter. Did that make sense?
So I think it's important to note with that Ikakumon effect, you can split the two, so you can strip the sources off of one Digimon and then stun another. So that is an important distinction to make. I do agree with Zero that in terms of deck building, for a deck with a wide array of effects like this, you kind of want to streamline what you're doing as much as possible. Your fives don't necessarily let you streamline that as much as the fours do. And we'll cover that in just a second. But I think that's why you kind of can't afford to run these toolbox style of fours because like you want the more powerhouse heavy fours, right? Um,
Yeah, this feel like honestly, this doesn't feel like an event like a card for the adventure deck. It just feel like this is a card for the Gomamon deck that you would play.
yeah. All right.
Yeah, like
But speaking of one of the powerhouse cards, we do have Kabuterimon. If you have one or fewer Tamers, you can play a Tamer card with the Adventure trait from your hand without paying cost, and Inherit is Piercing. So, obviously for a deck that relies on your Tamers, having the ability to free play your Tamers is really, really good. Um, I mean, there's not much to say about that other than like, yay, free Tamer, right? Piercing inherit. Oh,
Yeah, the piercing is really
yeah,
good.
the piercing is really good because this allows you to alliance into, like, say, your opponent's level 6 or 5 or whatever they may have, and then you can still remove a body while simultaneously still inflicting the 2 security checks. So, in my opinion, as far as like Kabuterimon and his counterpart goes, Kabuterimon is the better of the two. But
Show everyone one of the level 5 real quick to explain the
sure,
alliance mechanic.
yeah, that's important.
Yeah, so every single level 5 in this archetype has the same secondary effect, which
Mm-hmm.
is when any of your Digimon with adventure trait is play, you can give any of your Digimon alliance and then they're allowed to attack immediately.
Or if any other Digimon digivolves, just full disclaimer.
Yep. Oh yeah, so play or Digimon, my bad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So the play pattern in this deck is for you to set a level 5 and then you play something else or digivolve into something else and then you can attack with whatever with alliance and it'd be pretty big and it does 2 checks and that's just the generic play pattern. So the Kabuterimon is really good in that way because a lot of times you're gonna be, because you're swinging big numbers, you're gonna be swinging into other Digimon, and so yeah, having piercing give you access to damage push, very neat.
Yeah. And then the counterpart to the Kabuterimon is going to be the Angemon. Taste of victory,
Yep.
might I add.
Same effect. Basically, the inherit is -2k, which combine well with the level 5. So I would say every I do like the theme of the decks and the cards because they very specifically design the line to work pretty well with each other in terms of effect. So it's neat in that way.
Yeah, the only thing I
But
will
yeah,
say about the free Tamer plays, I've had situations where you'll hit a Tamer from security, and then you'll be stuck with like, okay, like I play Tamer turn 1, my opponent swings on turn 2, and they hit an exact same copy of the Tamer I just played, and then I look at it and I'm like, oh, suddenly my free play is turned off, and I'm like, okay, that sucks. Um,
yeah. I think it's like a decent card, but I
yeah,
don't. I would not play this card at a very high count
yeah,
just because a lot of times it's pretty often dead.
yeah.
And like sometimes this deck does run into the issue of having a little bit of hand awkwardness.
Mm-hmm.
So like sometimes your only recourse in turn 1 is, or if you go second, for example, right? Sometimes you're stuck evolving a rookie and slamming 2 Tamer, and then this card is dead.
Yeah. This card either becomes dead because, like Zero said, you have to do like a multi-tamer play, or is this is something you draw later into the game where you've already established your tamer, and it's just kind of like dead on arrival. You can argue that you just run higher counts of this card in order to see it early to get out your free tamer, which is totally fine. That's totally a valid line of thought, and that's a very good turn 2 play, I would say. Um, but definitely your space is kind of tight because of the other cards that you want to run, I would say.
Yeah.
Specifically, the other cards you want to run, since I'm already talking, I'll start with the War counterpart. Birdramon, on play / when digivolving, very, very important. If your tamers with the adventure trait have 3 or more total colors, you can evolve into an adventure Digimon without paying the cost. Um, this is by far in my opinion, the strongest aspect of the deck. This is like your bread and butter playmaker, and you have 2 different copies of this. Spoiler alert. This one gives you plus 2,000 DP, which is nice. But the important part is that this is both on play and when digivolving, so which makes it a very flexible card for you to kind of toolbox with, make your combos. Um, like we previously talked about with the Metalgarurumon being able to play out level 4 or lower adventure cards, you can play out one of these, evolve into a 5, and then make even more combos off of that. You can also play these for reduced costs with your tamers, so then you can just, the sky's the limit with this, really, right?
Yeah.
And then going into the Mega counterpart is going to be Togemon.
Yep, it's the same thing. Same effect. Inherit is you get all turn 1k DP instead.
Yeah.
Once again, I think they should have been swapped, but whatever.
Yeah. And then the last level 4 is going to be the Gatomon. So Gatomon security at the end of battle, play it on play when digivolving. Give 2 of your opponent's Digimon security attack -1, and when attacking -2k DP. This, this is unironically probably one of the better security bombs in a deck with very little security bombs. Um, but like,
This is a counterpart to Ikaku.
yeah,
It's neat, right? Like, cause this deck has no really defensive tool in terms
Hmm.
of security. So if you really want to sack your opponent out of security, you play this.
Yeah, I mean this is the equivalent of what what's the one yellow card way back when that like holy no what is it
Uh,
holy or god the two cost Magnadramon option, what was it? It
It's not
was
Holy Wave,
no,
is it?
it's not Holy Wave because Holy Wave is the heal. It
Oh, right.
was Holy Flame. See, yeah,
Holy Flame,
yeah,
yeah.
we were on track. Yeah, you're basically Holy Flaming your opponent. Which
Yeah.
if you played back in that era, you know just how annoying that was.
I mean, it's like an interesting card. I wouldn't hesitate to call it bad. I guess if you can't remove, this is a good way to start out the game and not die.
Hmm.
So, depending on meta, I can kind of see this being played.
Yeah, I agree. I think on average though, you're probably just trying to fit in as many of like these in your tier deck
Yeah.
as you want because like you want to see it
Yep.
so consistently. Yeah, and then going into the fives, like we said, all fives have the same second main effect, being that they'll give alliance and then effectively blitz, right? If you want,
Oh, yeah. Also, they all have the same inherit. They all
yeah,
give alliance on inherit too. So,
yeah, for your sixes.
the only difference with them is the first effect. So, let's just
Yep.
go over the first effect for every single one of them.
Yeah, so Metalgarurumon de-digivolve your one of your opponent's Digimon for every two colors. Mind you, this is very much so like EX3 Chaos Dramon. You cannot split the de-digivolve. Please bear that in mind. Um, but really quickly before we go into the rest of the fives, I do want to mention we need to talk about the black option. This is very important. Um, so the black option, this is the card that comes in the WarGreymon starter deck. While you have a Digimon or a Tamer with Adventure, ignore the color requirement, which is really good, great. And this, mind you, this says on the field, so that also
Yeah.
counts
So, this is
raising
a
area.
new.
Yeah,
Is this a new thing in BT21? I feel like this is
it
a new
is.
thing
It
in
is. It is a
BT21.
brand new
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, this, along with a number of other option cards in BT21, says from the field.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're not familiar with that, that now count your raising area.
Yeah.
So, before, a lot of options didn't look at your raising area to check for status. These now does. So if you just hatch an adventure type trait egg, this option is playable.
Yeah, I mean, because like it's the distinction between battle area and then field, right? Battle area does not include the raising area, whereas field does.
Yeah,
Um, and so the main effect is draw two and then place it into battle area. So
I'll agree.
yeah, pot agreed, right? Pretty straightforward. But the alternate effect is kind of where like the main use of this card is. When any of your level fives or higher Digimon would leave the battle area, so including your sixes, you may cash this in via delay. You can play a level 5 or lower adventure card from your hand without paying the cost. Now just like
Yeah.
really sit on that, right? Like, oh, I finally got rid of their card. Oh wait, another one just came down. Oh wait, they all have a wide variety of on plays and they all do different things. Okay, well that's cool. How many on plays can there be?
The
Spoiler,
the
there's a
interesting
lot.
so the interesting part about this card is this card says when they would leave the battle
Yeah.
area. So even before it leave, this card would activate.
Hmm.
So that's the interesting part to keep in mind. It makes timing for a lot of stuff really interesting. Since we're on this, go to the other option.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah, so this is the matte option of the two. You would run both. They're just both very fantastic cards. This
Yeah.
is the same condition as the other option, our Courage Unite, I believe. This is the memory boost for the deck. This this deck got an in archetype memory boost for some reason, which is can't complain, right? Dig top three for any adventure trait card. It grabbed any card, by the way. So it's more like a training than it is
It's
in archetype.
very good
Yeah,
training. Yeah.
yeah. It's a training to give memory instead of reduce evolution cost, basically. So and then the delay is gain two memory. So yeah, very good card. You run both.
Yeah. So with that being said, the black option, keep in mind, you can play out of 5 whenever your 5 or higher are removed. Metalgarurumon on play with Digivolving de-Digivolve 1, right? So you like they remove your 5, you play out the Metal Gray, you de-Digivolve their stack. Okay, you've interrupted their plays. Fantastic, right?
Yep.
Zudo, on the other hand, if you want to go ahead.
Yep. Zudo says strip a digital source for every two color among your tamer. And the interesting part is that it bounces something with one or fewer sources. A lot of the older bounces require zero source underneath. This one bounced one source, so it's pretty good. Cause like a lot of times you have two tamers. You have two tamer on board. You have four color, and you can strip two source and bounce. Like that catch people off guard because they don't sometimes they forget the one or less clause. And yeah, again, this is as good as Zudo Ace in a lot of scenario because you just strip two annoying swords and then you can also bounce under the stack
Yeah.
because the effect was separated.
Also keep in mind you cannot split what you're stripping. You have to strip. You have to invest all of your strip onto a single target. So similar to Metal Gray, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the bounce is you can bounce something else, right? That part is like you can split it.
Yeah,
Um,
the good part about this card is that like a lot of times your opponent, for example, your opponent has like a Digimon stack and they move out like another stack that's like a memory blocker with an egg inherit. You can strip the main stack and then still bounce the egg inherit because of the one or less condition.
mhm. Yeah, and then Mega Kabuterimon, on play when digivolving, one of your Digimon unsuspends, and then for every two colors you have, you can suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. So while this is a card featured in the WarGreymon starter deck, so it's meant to like tap out your opponent's bodies, let you swing over it, and you get all that good stuff. Really, this is primarily used for the unsuspend portion of it, because then you can just swing out twice and beat your opponent to death.
This card's insane, by the
Yeah,
way.
very very good.
Because of the way the timing works, if you have another level 5 and you play this, you can activate the second effect first to
Mm-hmm.
do this attack, and then activate the first effect
Yeah,
of unsuspending. And so you can swing with a stack with alliance and then unsuspend it
yeah.
and then tap something down. It's just very good.
Yeah, really, really good card. And then if you would just want to go ahead, the Lilymon.
Yeah. So this is this is your rookie removal, really. But this card is actually very versatile. So Lilliman says suspend all your opponent Digimon that's 5k or lower, and then you get to bot deck something for every two color you have. Right? Now notice that the bot deck effect is not restricted to 5k or lower. So that means you can bot deck anything. So this card actually very crazy in combination with Our Courage Unite because a lot of times what happens is your opponent can attack and say they have an on attack mandatory removal on one of your level 5. You just go, oh, okay, I'll activate my delay, play out the Lily, and now I'm bot decking the thing that you're attacking with.
Yeah, so Lilymon,
It's like insane card.
yeah, and it pairs well with the Mega Kabuterimon if you need the additional tap versus your opponent. So you can
Yeah.
like Evo Mega Kabu or like play it out or whatever, and you can just like get out the Lily, and then Lily can bot deck what you just tapped out. So really great synergy between the two green fives. And then damn, we're just getting like double mat in a row here.
Yeah. But yeah, so Wergo, pretty simple effect. This is actually from BT21 and not the starter deck.
Mm-hmm.
So it delete a level 4, and then if you have two or more color, it delete a level 5. Interesting thing about this is that does not scale anymore. It just simply delete a level 4 or a level 5 based on how many color you have. Pretty good card. It just straight up delete a level 5, so it's like it's kind of limited in its use, right? In some ways because you get to snipe a little shitter, but you can't really hit a level 6. But it's just straight. Sometimes it's just straight up a level remove a level 5 stack pretty early in the game, so it's pretty good for that reason.
Yeah.
But not something I would personally run a high count of.
Yeah, definitely being limited to only popping five or lower does make it a little bit awkward because oftentimes what's going to end up removing your fives to trigger your Courage United is going to be a six. So where Garu doesn't have a lot of utility in that sense.
Yeah, it does synergize with Metalgarurumon.
Yeah, it does synergize with Metal Greymon because like you need to devolve them to the five and then you pop them.
Yeah.
Garudamon. So Garudamon, on play when digivolving, for the turn, one of your Digimon gets Sec Attack +1, and for every two colors your Tamers have, plus 2000 DP. This is very fantastic for pushing damage, great in combination with the Mecha Kabuterimon, which is funny because they're both in the WarGreymon starter deck, but I digress. So you can push for 3 damage with the Alliance, and then unsuspend with the Mecha Kabuterimon, and swing for another 2, put them to 0, and then slam something for a game if you have a certain Tamer we'll talk about in a bit. I think the idea probably behind why they gave the WarGreymon such aggressive cards is probably because they wanted you to be able to actually push for damage while simultaneously maintaining a defense, is what I imagine Kohei was intending here. But nonetheless, Kohei just printed a bunch of cards that just said push your opponents like for the very life of them.
Yeah, just keep this going.
Yeah. Alright, Angelomon. On play when Digivolving, one of your other Digimon may Digivolve into a Digimon card with the adventure trait in hand without paying the cost. So Angelomon is very unique in the sense that it doesn't actually care about the color requirements like the others. Like, it doesn't look for how many colors you have. This is just outright one of your other Digimon may Digivolve into an adventure. So very versatile because it can turn your 3s into 4s, your 4s into 5s, and your 5s into 6s. On paper, this sounds insane, right? Like, this sounds really, really good on paper. In practice, it's a little bit more awkward just because you oftentimes evolving raw into your 6 is kind of like a place at times, and evolving into your 5 depending on what you're trying to do. I mean, unless you're doing like some kind of crazy chain link combo with limited amount of memory, you could usually accomplish what you need to do without it.
The best use of this card. So the problem, the obvious problem with this card is that it kind of does nothing
Yeah,
to the board. It's a negative tempo card, right?
yeah.
It's in a level 5 toolbox deck. It's a card that doesn't actually do anything by itself. You need another piece.
Mm-hmm.
But the main reason that this card is good, the main use of this card, in my opinion, is for evolving the rookie into the level 6 for free.
Yeah.
So
Which,
that's like
well,
a
hey,
big
that's
tempo
lore.
play.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like that's the lore, right? And that's one of the main thing that make this card good is that you can move out your rookie from raising and then play this off like so you slam like a butcher or something evolving to this, and now your rookie get to warp into a level 6 for free. So that's like a huge memory positive play that allow you to extend lethal or push damage or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so there's a combo with this card specifically for the WarGreymon style of build. So the combo that you can do is specifically to play around the black option. So this annoying thing is what you do is you have a 5 on board already established, and if you play out the Angelomon, so like either you play out the level 4 that evolves into this for free, or you just like play this out for reduced costs, or there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Have the Angelomon evolve your other 5 into a WarGreymon for 0 cost. Resolve both your WarGreymon immunity as well as pop. The pop will attempt to let them use their black option, but you already gained immunity, so you don't really care about it. And then the Angelomon effect will allow you to then attack with the WarGreymon because it just saw a Digimon evolve, and then the WarGreymon can swing and then use its pop again because it's not once per turn. So this Angelomon is actually one of your best tools to play around the black option if you are playing the WarGreymon style of build, and why I think it has some pretty cool usage.
Yep.
Yeah, I had to remember exactly why I thought this card was like solid, and like I had to dig through my Discord messages. Because like I'm telling you, I like legit, it was an actual shower thought. I was like sitting there, doing my thing, and then all of a sudden I was like, wait a second, Angela One has use. All right, and then yeah, Magna Hand.
So if you guys ever play Maste, you're familiar with the chaos degradation effect. This is that in more limited form. You get to bot deck a 6K or lower, and then for every 2 color, you add 2,000. So if you have 6 color Tamer, obviously it hit a level 6, but this is used in combination with the Angemon, or I guess you can use it with Garurumon Inherit, where you swing minus 2K, and then you use this effect to tuck something into security. It's pretty neat. It's kind of meta dependent. There might be a use for this depending on what decks you play in the meta, but currently it's kind of awkward because this is actually pretty hard to pull off into a lot of decks. And not to mention, a lot of level 6 these days are just not 12K. They're way bigger. So, yeah, that's the issue you run into where it's a pretty cool form of removal, but it's just kind of limited.
Yeah. And then we do have these options. Island of Adventure. While you have no face of Island Adventures, ignore the color requirement because it is a white card. Security effect, all turns, all of your level 3 or higher get plus 2,000 DP. And main effect, add your top of security to your hand and then place this into your security. Security effect, play a Tamer for free. So this is good just to have generic plus 2,000 across the board, and then if they hit it, it lets you free play a Tamer. Good card, not enough room though, in my opinion, but that's a whole different situation.
Yeah, and then Genai House is just the same effect, except is your turn, you get 3,000 instead.
Yeah.
And then the security effect let you play at level 3. Um, in many ways, this is just kind of worse than Island Adventure because the 1K DP often isn't that much of a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think Island Adventure security effect is just way better.
It is. I would agree. And then going into the tamers, Tai Izzy. So the four starter deck tamers all reduce play cost by tapping. Tai Izzy gives all your adventure Digimon blocker, and Sora Kari at the start of your main phase gain one memory if you have an adventure.
Yeah. And Matt TK give your level 5 or higher rush. And then Joe Mimi is literally just Sora, the
Sora
Bat
Kari,
version.
yeah.
Yeah, Sora Kari.
Um,
Yeah.
mhm.
So, and let's talk about Ty, and then we can round out
Okay.
all the Tamer.
Yeah, sure. The white tamer, yeah.
Yeah.
So white tamer is if it's the memory tamer, right? So if you have two or less, go to three. When any of
Mhm.
your Digimon when any Digimon attacks, tap this tamer, draw one. Main effect: you may play one adventure. We're gonna pretend the hero part doesn't exist because who cares? With the play cost of two or less. For every tamer color you have, add one to the maximum play cost effect. Then return this tamer to the bottom of your deck. So how this works is you start at two, and for every color you add one. So if you have one additional color, being Tai himself, you can play a three cost, right? If
Yep.
you have a say five colors, or yeah, say you have three colors, then you can play a five cost, right? If you have then if you have
Five
five
color.
colors, then you can play seven cost. So Tai in combination with the adventure tamers. So if you have Tai plus say Sora Kari, right? That puts you at three colors. That means you can play five costs. And now you can play your fours. You can use Tai to play out your four. And then assuming you still have three colors on your board, then these can evolve into the five for free. If you have, say, Sora Kari plus Tai Izzy, that is five colors. So then you can play out your level fives for zero cost, right? Um,
Yep. And notably, this is your most expensive card in the deck because it's a secret rare.
yes. And also do note it says you can play a card with a play cost of so
Yep.
and
So
so.
you can use Tamer,
Yeah,
and then you can use I believe because it's play, you cannot use the option.
you correct. You cannot use the option off the tie, but you can play out Digimon and you can also play out Tamer. So if you need to get certain color requirements, you can also use it for that. Tai Izzy obviously good with the WarGreymon style of build because you just want to wall up, give everything blocker. They're all immune and make it hard for your opponent to get through. Matt TK, I mean, Rush is super good, especially with the effect like when you play something, they can then attack, right? So effectively, you can replicate like a Blitz Omni style of play in a deck that's
Yeah.
like constantly chunking for like two checks or whatever, right?
Yeah. So what ends up happening is that this deck somehow just become the new version of Hunters.
Yeah,
Because the play pattern of this deck is really similar to Hunters. You set up a bunch of Tamers, and then you start playing stuff from hand, and you push damage out of nowhere.
yeah, and which reminds me, there is also this WarGreymon promo, which is also an adventure. Security attack plus one blocker. When Digivolving, pop a Mon with less equal or less DP. All turns plus 1,000 DP for each color Digimon and Tamer you have. Uh,
Yeah,
Card is
it's okay.
it's okay. It's a level six that doesn't overflow in the adventure deck. But your sixes aren't your highlights to begin with. It's your fives and fours, in my opinion. It only pops once. It pushes for two damage, but like everything basically pushes for two damage. If you have Tai Izzy, the blocker part is irrelevant, and the plus 1,000 DP. I mean, like anything above 13,000 is like a whatever, right? Um,
Yeah, I guess like you can say maybe like if you work this on Agumon, or I mean you can evolve this and
yeah.
get Alliance, and you swing for three. That's kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean it's okay.
It's not a bad card, right? It's
Yeah, it combo well with like Mega Combo. If you have Mega Combo, you can you can replicate the Garuda play where you swing for three on suspend, swing for two, and
yeah.
then swing for lethal,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
it's not a bad card. It's just it's not
It's
a
very basic.
it's very basic. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that covers all of the adventure cards and what they do. So hopefully for newer players especially, that kind of gives you an idea of like what card does what. But we'll go into the different builds. So I will be covering the WarGreymon style of build, and Zero will be covering. Oh wait, SkullGreymon, right? I forgot that came out.
Yeah. Let's go, Grandma.
Right. SkullGreymon, really quickly. On play, when Digivolving, one of your Digimon gains Raid and Retaliation until the end of your opponent's turn. On deletion, you may play one adventure card with play cost 4 or less from your trash. And then on deletion, you same thing as this, right? Um,
Yep.
so this is the
So
only.
that
Oh,
play a card too on deletion.
yeah, so this is the only five that doesn't have the alliance effect either way, because surprise, it's evil. Ooh, so like there is no friendship here. Your bonds are dead. Ooh.
This one
But
is a surprise. We got this one super late into the review
yeah,
cycle. It's literally the second to last card we got.
yeah, but this is really clean form of removal. It floats. You can float into one of the fours that can just free Evo. So a lot of utility there. Having the on deletion means if they somehow punish you on your 6, you can then float into the 4. You can then trigger black option. Like you can just float into like double body. So pretty good card
It
overall.
what notable about this card is that it can also float into a tamer.
Yeah.
So the ability to raid retaliation into a big stack dies and then set up a tamer is really neat.
Yeah, so you can raid Retail, play out White Tamer, and then White Tamer into like another body, and then like there's like so many combos you can play off of like the WarGreymon.
Yeah, very
Um,
versatile card.
very versatile. So I'll be covering WarGreymon. Zero will be covering Melga. WarGreymon style of build, we are going for the more defensive approach. Naturally, a lot of your cards push a lot of damage by themselves, so that's kind of like like you can go defensive, but you still also have a lot of damage. But we've definitely leaned a lot more into the defensive route. Your Aegisuno, because the recursion is way too good. This is your level 3 lineup. Biomon is a mandatory 4 of. Your Agumon, you could do a 4-2 ratio with Palmon. But the Palmon, as you play the deck, you realize you value the consistency of this card very highly, being able to just have 7 consistency rookies. And the plus 1000 DP inherit is just kind of good in general. Agumon, reboot inherit, very good. In general, you can go 4-2-3-3, whatever you want to do. Personal preference, right? Your level 4 lineup, you have we've come to the conclusion that you want 5 to 6 of the free Evo level 4s. It's just by far your strongest 4, and you want to have it consistently across the game. You want an early game, you want a mid game, you want a late game. You really just want it at every point, right?
Yep.
Togemon being the generic 1000 across the board both players' turns means the WarGreymon is always going to be 13,000 on average, which is really good for this style of build. The plus 2000 from the Birdramon allows your level 5 to remove 6s with Alliance 4. Because what you can do is you can have the 5 play a 4. The 5 will then see the 4, and then you can then swing Alliance, and then 7,000 plus 4,000 puts you at 11,000, plus 2,000 from Birdra puts you at 13,000. So then you can swing over a lot of 6s, which would be like 12, for example. So that's kind of like you can make like a 3-3 argument because of that reasoning, or like if you just want to be safer in security. But for the WarGreymon side of the build, the plus 1000 across the board is generically good. Like we mentioned, the Tamer free play, while good, it can be dead sometimes depending on when you draw it into the game, and it's just nowhere near as powerful as the free Evo, right? So that's kind of like why we ride on this ratio. And we play the
Yeah.
one Taunt Gray. The Taunt play is really good with the WarGreymon style of build, but again, we're trying to make room for as much like of the consistent powerhouse play as much as possible. There is a world where you can bump down like Togemon to 3 or like Birdramon to 1 and then play a second Greymon. I think that's totally fine. Your 5 lineup. So you'll notice we play a lot of 1-ofs. That's because you just want to sit on your WarGreymon. So like as long as you're sitting on WarGreymon, what you're kind of like playing with is like doesn't super matter, but like you just want to have availability there. 2 Zudo, being able to strip problematic sources and then also remove a body potentially is really good. Mega Kabuterimon allows you to be both aggressive and defensive at the same time, and it just allows you to push damage very hard. Lilymon, in combination with the Mega Kabu, removes a lot of bodies and can also, it's just really generic removal. WarGaru, we play the 1-of to combo with the black option. This can be used to punish early game plays as well. If your opponent's playing up on a 5, we can then WarGaru to punish it. Remember, this doesn't kill 6s, so it's a very limited card. Skullgreymon, while being a very good card, doesn't share the Alliance trait as the other 5s do, which means it loses a bit in that department. And if you've ever played this deck, you'll realize that sometimes you're just like, you don't have the 5, and if this is the 5 that you draw, your plays are kind of dead, because now you don't have an Alliance 5 to make like any plays with. This is also a card that isn't very strong with the black option either, so do keep that in mind. The idea is that you can use a Skull Gray with Tai Izzy, give it blocker, block a Skull Gray, and then float into like the 4, and then the 4 can like free Evo into like the 5, and like that's kind of cool. But at the same time, you can just like block with any 5 to begin with, and then just black option into like any of the 5s. So like I guess effectively Tai plus Skull is the same as Tai plus black option, right? So it's like a 4th copy of a black option on a body, I guess, in that way. But still, not having the Alliance characteristic does make it a little bit weaker. Garuda's good because it lets you randomly scam lethal out of your opponent. And Angelwomon, like I said, you want to be able to play through the black option because the WarGreymon pop is mandatory. Sometimes you're forced to play into the black option, so having Angelwomon as a card that lets you play through it is really, really good. We have a 3-1 split on the level 6s. While WarGreymon is very good, there are times where you just want to have Metalgarurumon's ability to bot deck cards as well as play out bodies. So 3-1 ratio works out pretty well. We have a 4-3 split on our options. While black option is super busted, it's a card that doesn't generate any memory, so playing it early game can leave you getting choked out very often. So having a 4 of the memory boost to make it so you can always have a play is really good. And then our tamer lineup, 3 white tie because tie is not only a memory tamer, but also it lets you draw additional cards in a deck where drawing cards is really, really important for a toolbox style of deck, and free plays bodies. So having multiple copies of this, especially when it's bot decking itself for its effect, is really important. And then this tamer lineup, we play 3 of the Tai Izzy because we want to have that blocker up at all times. That's the core crux of the deck. And because black-green is our most common color combination, we play 2 Sora Kari. So that way, with the Tai Izzy Sora Kari, we then have our 4-color requirement. And then also with the Matt TK, we're also hitting the 4-color requirement. Matt TK giving you Rush. So that is the WarGreymon style of build list. The ideal play style is that you're using your 5s to push damage and then ending on WarGreymon to then make an immune board. You can ace with the WarGreymon as well to put a lot of pressure onto your opponent. With the Reboot Inherit, with the Mega Kabuterimon, you're able to make sure you have immune blockers that are standing upright and then you can play against your opponent. So that is my rant. But full disclaimer, I do think the Metalgarurumon style of deck is the better of the two. But I'll let Zero take that one.
Okay. So as you can see, the deck lists are pretty similar. So I'm not gonna go over the entire thing. I'm just gonna point out the difference in card choices. So obviously because we're playing this build is Melga centric, we're gonna play Gabumon instead of Agumon. Same reasoning for most of the other cards that he's running, but for on the level 4 slot, we run one of the Garurumon because this deck is focusing on trying to get lethal as early as possible. So sometimes you are missing that one extra level 5, so the Garurumon in the as a random middle game mid game play can let you grab back a important level 5 for you to lethal. Um, We run more of the Budgermon just because we run our stuff to hit bigger so they don't randomly die to security, because being able to chain the second effect on level 5 is pretty important. So just having them be bigger is good. I run the one of Metalgarurumon because into some matchup the Digivolve is really your only recourse to get through certain type of wall. Um but um again, this card is very meta dependent. In a meta that's like, for example, really heavy on Royal Knights, if like I don't know, if 50% of your local is Royal Knights, feel free to cut this card and run like Greymon or another Zudo in this place. Zudo is good. Just strip very annoying sources. Get into a bunch of stuff. Just bounce, get rid of your plum. Is one of your reliable method of removal. Mega Kabu set the 3 off because Mega Kabu enable fast lethal in combination with Garuda. So the goal of this deck is just to kill as fast as possible. So sometimes you can get lethal like by turn 4 if you have the Tamer set up, because the play is as simple as going to Garuda to get extra security attack, and then you go play level 4 Avon Mega Kabu, swing for 3 checks with Alliance, unsuspend, and then you swing for 2 checks on the Garuda. And that's 5 checks, and then you slam any other level 5 and is able to swing because of the Mega Kabu Alliance effect that you have not activated.
And then Matt TK
And
gives it
that's,
Rush. Yeah.
yeah, and Matt TK, that's why we play Matt TK as a 3 of in this deck, just to increase the chance of you having Rush. And then we play 3 of the um, Joe Mimi just because they good color combination with the Matt TK. And the Melga itself is just really strong defensive tool. You're always threatening ace on your opponent bot decking. Really good into a lot of decks, but a lot of times what you're able to do is just extend lethal with it, right? So what you go do is you go into the Melga and you swing, uh, draw trash, and then you play out a Toge or Bodra, and that will evolve into an additional level 5. What I like to do pretty often is go into like Bodra and then go into Garuda off of that play to give the Melga extra DP and security attack. Because if you don't like for example you warp over a Gabumon, you won't have alliance. So it is kind of sketchy to swing that into some security because you're only 12k. But um yeah, pretty straightforward deck. You're just swinging a bunch of time. It's just Melga.
Yeah. And at
Yeah.
the end of the day, adventure is a very flexible deck, so you can like build it any one way, and it's probably fine, right? If you want the more defensive style of Warg, you can do that. Which the amount of one ofs here make me feel like I'm cosplaying Ying, to be honest, but like none of these one ofs are like super drastic to the game plan, so like bear that in mind. But like if you
Yeah.
want to push face, play Melka. If you want to park the bus a little bit, play Warg. You can always play a combination of the two as well. That's also a valid strategy. Although me personally, if from a competitive standpoint, I think you want to lean one way or the other. Um,
Yeah. Also,
mhm,
this is probably one of the first real toolbox deck that we got in Digimon. As
mhm,
close as to Digimon can get to a toolbox deck anyways. Because when you talk about toolbox deck in a card game like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh, typically they're able to search through the entire deck and grab any answer at any time,
mhm,
right? We obviously don't have deck searches in Digimon, and it's very unlikely that we'll ever get deck searches. It doesn't seem like something the design team wants to go down, like a path they want to go down. I think they just want to keep the game digging top and drawing cards,
yeah,
right? So this is as close you can get to a toolbox deck in Digimon, where you just are able to build your deck to have answer to pretty much everything. You have access to pretty much every tool in the game, right? With the exception of like what minus DP.
uh,
Uh,
technically you have minus DP, but like not and
not to the extent that will remove
unless you
anything
want to
you
shove in
want.
Heaven's Judgment, which by all means, right?
Right, but I'm just saying maybe down the line they add a level 5 that give you minus DP,
Yeah,
right?
and and
But
and but also to that like yes, like our both our lists are like within archetype, but like that's not to stop you from running like anything else outside the archetype, right? Like
yeah, this is just very simple list. If you want to run other stuff outside the archetype, you want to run like a non-adventure lineup for the level 6,
yeah,
feel free. Because at the end of the day, this is a deck that cheat out level 5 extremely
mm-hmm.
really
You
easily,
want to
right?
fit in Omni X? Fuck it, bro.
Yeah.
Toss it in. Like,
I mean, like this is a deck that cheat out level 5 really easily, so you can just cheat out level 5 and evolve any level 6 you want.
yeah,
Like if you think you have like you can build your lineup specifically to like specific type of level 6 and just go into those, that seems like it work out.
yeah.
But yeah,
We've seen even like Leopardmon Adventure, right? We've seen the adventure engine being used with BT. What is it? BT18 Tusanomon. You know,
yeah. The one thing about all the adventure cards is that they're actually pretty good in their own respective deck. Like that Garurumon is like fantastic in burst.
yeah, very yeah. Garuda's really good in birds. The insect cards are pretty solid. Like the Mega Kabuterimon's fantastic in Tyrant, right?
Yeah, because the Garuda, the only thing that's tied to having Tamer color is the extra DP.
Yeah,
So you do get the extra security attack. So let just let Bird push for more damage if they want to.
yeah. So at the end of the day, Kohei cooked. Like just outright, Kohei cooked with this one. Kohei like definitely hit the mark. Um,
Yeah, this is a really fun deck. It feels really good to play. It feels really good to build. Very versatile on what you can do with it. Like you can customize this to however you like to play the game.
mhm.
Um, I think it's very stable as a deck to pick up because it's you can tweak this to be really solid and depending on how the meta shake out, it's very hard for this deck to fall out of relevance,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not, but it's like it's playing into Floodgate that deny play cost reduction is a little bit annoying, but on average, you don't really care that much because you're able to just evolve stuff up anyways. Like you're not like Royal Knights where if a sight one come out, you have to get rid of it or you can't do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're able to still play the game through like a sight one,
I mean,
so
yeah,
it's
you
kind
could
of whatever.
like you could slam Birdra and then Evo up and then they get rid of it, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that isn't to say the deck doesn't have bad matchup because you
mhm.
do have some matchup feel pretty rough.
Like Black
Like I
WarGreymon.
think, yeah, I think Royal Knight is also a pretty rough
It
matchup,
is,
but
yeah,
yeah. So, but maybe you can tweak your decks to deal with that. Maybe they get their own play cost reduction,
yeah,
floodgate in the future. So,
yeah.
but yeah, I think if you're trying to get back into the game or if you're a new player, this is a very good set of starter deck to pick up.
Mm-hmm.
We still don't know how expensive the tie is gonna be, but if the tie end up being like $20, this would probably be a sub $100 deck. That's probably a meta deck, right?
Yeah. Um, my only comment I will say, and this is why I don't think this deck is not necessarily tier 1 on release at least, right? Um is the deck, you do run into some consistency issues, right? Because your draw is pretty limited for the most part. You're like heavily relying on like your tie plus like your options. You don't have a lot of like draw through the actual Digimon effects themselves. So you're pretty reliant on that. And your memory is at times very telegraphed. It kind of suffers the same issue I've had in the past with like Ancient Garurumon, where everything that's on your board is exactly what's on your board. You don't have any cards that cheat out memory. Like obviously you're like, oh, but my level 4 cheats out into a free Evo. Right, we know that. But we also know that the opponent knows that. And so they can also account for that. And if they know what exactly fives that you have, they can play around that, right?
Yeah, none of your memory gain is tied to a Digimon.
Exactly.
So all your memory gain is very apparent on board. So
Yeah.
it's very yeah.
And it's not like you can use your memory flexibly either. Like your memory, like your free Evo is it's only your free Evo, right? It's not like I could use my memory to then play out a Tamer and then do something else, right? I can't use my memory to play out the black option. It's very like cut and dry. I know exactly what I can do, and my opponent knows exactly what I can do. And because of that,
Yeah.
I think this deck suffers the same issue as being too telegraphed like Ancient Garurumon was, which is why I think this is a high tier 2 deck and not necessarily a tier 1 deck personally.
Yeah, we have to see.
Yeah.
It's also again very meta dependent. This
Mm.
deck, if based on into certain meta, you can just build this deck to grief all of tier 1, and then it's probably be pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was gonna say like if Royal Knights is like everyone's playing Royal Knights and like screw it, play 4 Zudo, right? Like nothing to
Yeah.
lose, right?
Yeah, like if you run enough like targeted removal to deal with certain archetype of deck, like you're just gonna be really annoying for them to deal with.
Yeah.
And like you have kill pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of which build you play, you just randomly kill on like Twin 5.
Yeah, which is why I think the Metalgarurumon version is the better of the two because it's the most ignorant of the two. So like it doesn't matter what you're playing into. Sometimes you'll just scam lethal out of your opponent out of nowhere, and this is the
Yeah,
most.
the thing
It's the most consistent
yeah,
at the scamming lethal.
yeah, the thing is that you're also swinging very big.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just randomly like with Garuda and Meadow, you're randomly just swinging for like I don't know 20 something K alliance.
Yeah.
So like there's a scenario where you swing over a Galamon X as insane as that sound.
Yeah. But yeah, that is the comprehensive adventure guide. Hopefully this was helpful to both new and older players, or not older, but more experienced players, right?
Yeah.
This is a deck that's like we said countless times throughout the video. It's very fun. It's very easy to pick up, very difficult to master, but it's a deck that will age pretty well over time since you can just swap in and out the pieces depending on the meta.
It's good for more support, guys. Like
Yeah,
just
yeah,
pick
it's
it up.
guaranteed more support as well. So like surely, and then like who's to say we don't get Adventure 02 tying in, right? So there's like the sky's the limit
Oh,
with this deck.
here's my theory. The EX9 is the pendulum deck, right? And oh, sorry, it's a pendulum set from pendulum 1 to 5, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at the population of Digimon within all of those VPETs, there's a good amount of the Digimon from season 1 on File Island. Like uh there's Leomon, and so on.
I'm about to say we could get like an adventure villain too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Skull Greymon opened up for Adventure Villain, so you can randomly get Adventure Elamon. I can see that.
Yeah.
Because Elamon is also in the set, so you can just randomly see Adventure Elamon. So we don't know if the Adventure archetype. It looks like they're just making the Adventure archetype specific to season 1, maybe season 2 later down the line, but currently it's season 1. So
Yeah.
it's very open to get a bunch of support because they can just go.
And wait, and then hear me
Yeah.
out. Adventure Try, and then Adventure Kizuna. I'm just saying, and then Adventure Beyond. Like,
Yeah. Is this when? Is this the return of Kentarumon?
who? Oh, the centaur.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
We haven't seen. We got like 2 cards of him, and neither of them is like
no, it's not
that
good.
relevant.
Not good.
Yeah, maybe we finally see a Kentarumon that's like meta relevant.
I imagine we probably see it in like the pendulum like Digimon World 1 style of decks now.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's in the pendulum, and he's an ally of the adventure kids, right? In season 1.
Yeah.
So
So
we just might see him. Like, yeah, I'm just saying. Like, I think it's very open on what they can do. See Ogremon, Adventure Ogremon, eventually Leomon, like this eventually see it Saber Leo. I can see that in the X9.
Yeah. So the main gist here is that this is a very good investment, right? This is a deck that's guaranteed support. It'll probably keep getting support over time. It's versatile. It's a really strong game plan. It's just good deck. Deck is good. No complaints here, right?
Yep.
Okay, but
Yep.
uh, thank you all so much for watching. We really, really appreciate it. I know this has been a very long video, but if you've stuck around to the very end, we really do appreciate it. DCGO will be updating with all of these cards very, very soon, I hope. We're still working out a couple of bugs here and there, but hopefully they'll be out within the next like week or so, maybe 2 weeks. Who knows? Please also remember that we have the physical release of the starter decks at the same time as BT21, so you can make full powered adventure the exact same day. And we will be having an exhibition match versus the Unkers, which are the Southeast Asian players. Really, really fantastic players, some of the best in the world. We'll be having an exhibition match sometime after the physical release, so please also look forward to that. Last thing I want to say is if you're not in the Hoang Zero Discord, be sure to join the Hoang Zero Discord. The link will be in the description down below. So that way you can be up to date on all of the new deck building and whatnot that we've come up with, and also get alerted whenever a new video goes up. As well as be sure to check out the Hoang Zero Patreon if you're interested in some exclusive content there. That's all my plugs. Zero, do you have anything?
Nope, that's it.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you all so much for watching the video, and take it easy. Peace.